As-Sabiqun rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa uminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyudhhirahu ala din kulihi walau karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأوثق الأمور كلمة التقوى وخير الملال ملة إبراهيم وخير السنن سنة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشر الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما علامة دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفاها وخير الهادي ما أتباعه وشر الأمة أما الكعب. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is Taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. Best acts are the ones that yield benefits. Best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmalu bil adli wal ihsani وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin, and He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يَرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan will to guide, He opened their breasts to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves, and remember with gratitude Allah's favor on you. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nasi ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best peoples ever raised up for mankind, because you enjoin the right, forbid the wrong, and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Some of this is from a stage of growth in the Islamic movement about 1998. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, you shall surely travel from stage to stage. Within the universe, there's a natural law that every living thing is created with certain potentials and possibilities. Man, being a part of this creation, is therefore faced with the question: how do I develop to my fullest potential? This newsletter, we hope to answer several important questions, such as: what are the special habits, customs, and attitudes that will identify and set the Muslim activist, committed Islamic movement worker apart from the general body of the Muslims here in the West? In other words, there are special habits, characteristics that a Muslim worker would have to possess in order to carry on a protracted struggle inside the United States. In other words, the Muslim who is a committed activist would be different from, say, a fair weather friend or a fair weather activist who, when they're on the campus, whether it's Islamic or black nationalists or what have you, they would be a good activist on campus. They would be carrying on and going to demonstrations and really activating things. Then when they get toward their last year on campus. They would start making resumes and what have you to send out around to companies and organizations, and their activism would slow down or even cease altogether. And the longer they're out of that environment, that is the university, the campus environment, the quieter they get. Why? Because now their daily activity is wrapped up in their job, having children, paying mortgages and what have you. You don't have time or the focus or the energy. If you were a black nationalist, you might have been active in 65 to around 1970. Or you might have even been a long-range activist and last up to 75. But as the more you move toward today, the less focus and activism you would have, and really the less confidence you would have in completing that movement's activities, you know, being a successful nationalist. I think they had either 73 or 75 in Gary, Indiana. They had one of the last big nationalist conferences, you know. It was a good conference. They had reasonable intentions, but none of that took place, or very few of those ideas that they had. The more we move away from the 60s and the early 70s, the less implementation of those ideas that they had, because you get older, you get a little less committed. Things come in the door, you get hustlers coming around and they snatch hold to the movement, and you have Jesse Jackson making rhymes all over America and running off with all the money. You know, then Sharpton will come in and he'll be doing the same thing. And all of a sudden the movement will become like even Ronald Reagan. I don't agree with him on nothing, hardly, but he used to talk about civil rights hustlers. He was absolutely right. Civil rights hustlers, those are guys that would go collect money from Coca-Cola or anybody else, and they would threaten them with, here I come. And they say, here come Jesse. So that means that Jesse was going to shake down the white man, and he would get all of that money for himself, built off the movement that we had developed. Okay? So this stages of growth in the Islamic movement means that this movement is a long-range, protracted struggle. What type of discipline, what type of self-control would we have to possess to go not during the 70s or 80s, but all the way up to now and beyond, when we reach that glorious vision that we have for an honorable future. In other words, it goes on to say, what type of internal environment is needed to sustain, support, and encourage the work of establishing Islam in a hostile external environment? What kind of nourishment and sustenance will be needed to enable the activist or worker to carry on a protracted struggle, long-range struggle? We of the As-Sabiqun movement have thought long and hard on these vital questions. Working for Islam here in the West, for the past 20 years, we have gained a wealth of insight and experience, alhamdulillah, that will, inshallah, help us answer them. Remember, this is 98, so that means if that was 22 years ago, then that means we've been working in this arena for some 40 years now, because this is. But the first 20 years, you gain in the basic knowledge of things. The later years, in your earlier years, just like learning how to walk, talk, run, and jump, you learn most of your stuff in the first 20 years of your life. Even game that you, not game, let's call it, even knowledge that you learn. By the time you're 40, you've acquired most of the general human knowledge. So you gain 90% of what you're going to pick up. The later years, you're repeating that, and you're being reminded. It's like a vicar. You're being reminded of what you already know. That's why if you record what you're thinking and doing and acting on, you go back, you say, oh yeah, I was down with that a long time ago, but things have evolved. Now how do I employ the same thing I learned 30 years ago in modern times? So you get into a repetitive kind of an evolution. You don't learn a whole lot. After you learn all the basic things, right? You don't learn a whole lot extra. It's just that you get fine-tuned in the later part of your life. So, because our leaders do not speak of the war against Islam, and the Muslims do not mean that it does not exist. It is clear that the entire Western Bloc is employing all of its resources to attack, suppress, and destroy Islam. The Zionist state of Israel and the illegitimate child of American neo-fascism has just celebrated 50 years of oppression, well, that's against the Palestinian people. And remember, when you want to find out who's doing most of the wrong, just take out 3 entities and say, well, in Saudi Arabia, the Zionist state of Israel, and the United States of America. That's not evil. Everybody's doing a little evil here and there. But these are the main perpetrators of evil in the world today. If you want to find out who's behind Boko Haram, who's behind most of the fitna in Africa and around that part of the world, even in the Middle East, you'll see it's Saudi Arabia. They're supposed to be the keepers of Islam, but they're causing all the trouble for the rest of the Muslims. That's why every group that they support, they do not fight the West. They go, you see them cutting off people's head and all this old dumb stuff, which has nothing to do with Islam, right? And they take 3 or 4 wives, concubines, whatever they call them, but they raid Christians and what have you, and they take all of those women and they, abuse them. That's not Islamic. It's not even human. Well, we don't call it human. They call it normal. So, this ayat started, you shall surely travel from stage to stage. That you shall certainly ride from stage to stage, mean that we look at it like each event that you come across in life will cause you to move or evolve from stage to stage. So, in fact, Sayyid Qutb says here that is to say, you shall pass from one stage of suffering to another, to what has been ordained or destined for you. The Quran uses the term ride. It denotes the undergoing of various stages of suffering. Ride is frequently used in Arabic to signify the passage through risk and difficulty. This usage suggests that difficulties and risks are like horses and mules. To be ridden, each one will take you, that is the riders, the stages predestined for it and for them. Thus each one will be delivered or will deliver them to a new stage which is again predetermined for them. In other words, like we always say that they got a bus company out here, you got a cab company, or you call them for a ride, or you stand out and wait for the bus. That ride takes you to where you're going. the place that you got in your mind is predetermined. I'm going to catch the bus here, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to get off a certain place, right? That means that's a predetermined place that you had in your mind, because you're not just getting on the bus to ride here and there, right? You're getting on that to go somewhere. And that place is specific. Events, difficulties in your life is there for the same reason. They take you from one place after another, from one stop after another, right? And this don't stop until you pass away. So you taking that ride, and the events that happen in your life. If you encounter small and medium and normal challenges in life, you will evolve in a small, medium, normal way. But if you face big challenges, big difficulties, like taking on boss man here, you don't worry. Wherever you're going to be big. When you get there, you're going to be bigger than Johnny Boy that's taking a normal ride. He just wants a job, want to do this, that, and another, and he's going to go to his destination. Predetermined destination. He himself is determining where he's going to end up by the challenges that he or she or they choose for themselves. It's their choice. Remember the Quran say you're going to get if you got a good book, you're going to get it on your right hand, right? If it's the other, you're going to get it in your left hand. But who's going to write that book? You are. The angel is recording only what you're doing. So you writing your own book, right? Yourself. The place that you're going to wind up, you're choosing that destination. Allah not making you go there. That is a predetermined. When you catch the bus out there, you're going for a ride. That means you're going to encounter events, difficulties, struggles along the way. Those struggles will determine exactly where you're going, right? And how big you're going to be when you get there. How well adjusted you're going to be when you get there. That's why some of the translators translated as you will travel from event to event. You know, some say you will ride from event to event. But the idea is you're going to determine. Allah gave you power, potential, and potential is just technically, potential means something that's powerful, is potent, and it can become, but it hasn't become yet. It's like a seed. A seed comes with potential to become a full, whatever it was designed for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to put it in the proper environment, right? You have to water it, you have to culture it, you have to develop that seed, and if you do, that seed will live out its potential, and it will produce other seeds. And if some fall by the wayside, they just won't reproduce. But nature is such, well, not nature, Allah is such that Allah produces abundance. Like sometimes you used to see flowers around the Masjid, and what it would be, one flower has at least 1,000 seeds in it. So don't put one or two of them have to fall in the right place to reproduce, right? But now if you develop a garden or orchard and you plant those seeds in long rows in just the right way that they get the right type of culture, the right type of amount of water, and sunshine, guess what? Almost every one of them will reproduce, right? And they will become strong and they will become very well developed. That's what potential is. Potential is every one of us. Potential comes from the word potent, that you have power, you have potential. You have possibilities, but you have to become that thing. One more mountain to climb. It don't have the old song, you know, one more mountain to climb and one more river to cross. I guess y'all too young to remember those. But here's what it says. Nearly every society and every group of people has developed or inherited some vision of the perfect or near perfect state of being. In this imaginary land, the sky is the bluest and the water is the purest and the air is the freshest. Birds sing with an angelic harmony. It is a social and political oasis in which human beings have overcome his base nature and developed through strong human will and extraordinary intellect a place where freedom rings and truth and justice flow down like a heavenly spring or stream. Utopian socialism hold that it is this society, in this society, property groups will peacefully and voluntarily relinquish their holdings in order to achieve a common ownership of the means of production. In James Hilton's novel Lost Horizon, there existed a place of virtual paradise on earth called Shangri-La. And these classic movies, The Wizard of Oz and all of them, there was a song that was sang called Somewhere Over the Rainbow, referring to the place where dreams can come true. Now this stuff of dreaming and visualization is very important in our life. One more mountain to climb that deals with our vision of the near or perfect future. All right. So what do we want to be like? In this place, as it says, the skies, the bluest, the air is the freshest, and water the purest. Everything is really all right in that society. And it says in that society, people will overcome their base desires, and through strong will and intellect and faith, they will overcome all the challenges that hold them down, all the gravitational pulls that hold the human being down. Lust, rage, certain desires, they're part of our nafs. If we control them, they're good. Because who will control things? Will the horse control where you go, or will the rider? In other words, will your body control how much you eat, where you go and everything? You know what I mean? If your body controls, sex with anybody is fine. It's fine. Because it's your nafs. It feels good, it's all right. That's what the nafs tell you. Right? So you don't say, oh, that lady's married and I'm married, so we can't get together. On that level, you don't say nothing like that. You say, that girl, that looks good. Or that man, look at his shoulders and chest. He's all right. Right? So they get together. Why? Because the nafs is in control. Then you reach another level, if you're fortunate, called a self-accusing spirit. Nafs amara, the animal, nafs lawama, is higher. It's called in the Quran self-accusing spirit. Right? That's when you become a human being. Now you have a conscience. That's what self-accusing. You have a conscience now, and you say, yeah, she's married, but I'm not married. So, what are we going to do here? Self-accusing spirit is your conscience. Sometimes the conscience wins, sometimes the nafs win. Sometimes you do whatever you think is all right, and sometimes your conscience wins. You say, no, this is right and that's wrong. And your conscience wins. This is all in the human being. This is all our makeup. Then there's another level called nafs al-mutmainah. That's when Allah is pleased with His creation and His creation is pleased with Allah. Right? From that level, nafs al-mutmainah is you're almost on automatic pilot. Your nafs, you got your nafs in such control that your nafs become revolutionary, right? Because remember, the horse and the rider, the horse don't tell you where to go. The rider says, oh no, we're going over here, right? That's what the bridle is for, to control and to manage. That's what the stern wheel is for on the car, to guide it and direct it to where you want to go. If you have evolved as a human being and as a person, and you are in control of your nafs, that means your desires. Your desires are good. That Allah put it, without nafs, we wouldn't reproduce, we wouldn't overcome challenges and obstacles, we'd just be a blob just here, right? So our nafs are your drives, right? So you couldn't reproduce without nafs, because the nafs, they're good. When you use them right, boy, nafs is all right, ain't no doubt about it. When they use right. When they use wrong, you're in trouble. So now this is about developing potential. In order for us to go up against boss man in America, we're going to have our nafs together. Ain't no doubt about it. Why? Because the very nafs that you don't control, boss man used them against you. In the movement, if you want to really get somewhere, just jump in a movement and start getting active. Boss command gonna come after you. Just say, I want to do right, I want to do good. I want to join the social justice league. Well, there's people that get their money off social injustice, right? That's social justice. That's how they live. In fact, most of the people live off social injustice, not social justice. And you're just a normal human being. I want to do good for everybody. Here come boss man with his agents, just like Shaitan. They're all part of the same crew. Where's the jinn, the Shaitan? That's his crew. So he gonna hit you with, well, let's see. He gonna go down the list. Let's see that they hadith tell him that the biggest challenge that God gonna leave for what? Is women. Right? When the old Masjid, whenever they wanted to cause trouble in the Masjid, they'd send 3 or 4 good-looking women to the Masjid. Usually Imam would knock over 1 or 2 of them, and they would fight over the others, you know. Because in the old days, the Imam, I'm talking about in the so-called Sunni community, in some communities that were also Sunnis, they stuck mainly to one wife. But in the Al-Islam movement and others, they had more than one wife. And the nafs was in control. Why? Because a brother would marry 2 or 3 women, and they all on welfare, and that's when the welfare was rolling, you know. So I'm the man of the house. So he don't have no job, he don't have nothing. He just stays in the masjid all day, practice martial arts and stuff like that. And he's a man of the house. And he lived off his 3 wives, or 2 wives, or even 1. But he wasn't going to be out breaking his back, doing no whole lot of work, unless he sold a little oil every now and then. So the nafs was in control. So, if you got control of that, but suppose you like money. Man, I want to have a better material life. And you happen to be in a movement where you're going to try to become the treasurer or somebody to collect the money. Well, why? So you can get your share, which is most of the money. So you got to be big in order, because you're going to get those challenges. You remember to ride from one place to the other? So if you're in a movement, if you're active, you're going to get big or get wiped out by life. Life going to take you out, because sometimes you just stole all the money and everybody going to eventually get mad at you. One of the imams, he's up in New York, you can see him, he's speaking a lot in Australia for the last 30 years. He's been over in Australia. And he makes good lectures. But in 82 or something, he went over and got a big package of money. That's when they give money to anybody, Negroes, everybody. They go over to Saudi Arabia, we just want to build a masjid. And you know, or you would know 2 or 3 Saudis or Emiratis, and they all had a big dawah. They were getting big money in them days. So they would give people, oh, we help y'all Negroes out over there. So one of them got a barrel full of money, came back and bought a red Cadillac, because the community got rid of them. You know, Cadillacs in those days, 82 was pretty big. So they got rid of him. And then he hung around the movement for a few years. The next place he popped up is somewhere that spoke English, but didn't nobody know nothing about him. And he come over there with the flim-flam. Flim-flamming in. He might have got, about 10 years ago, they might have got wind of him by then. But that's a challenge. Moving forward is a challenge. It's not only the obstacles of the system itself, right? It's not only the challenges of history, our own history. See, our own history, if we thinking back, our history will determine our future. Man, yeah, we were slaves, we was this, we was that, and that's why you're always looking back. So when you look forward a little, you limit yourself. But your history should never limit your future. Right? That's what all of this, one more mountain to climb, over the rainbow, dreaming big. See, now we don't want to be like Europeans, because the American dream, the white folks' dream, is built off of taking land from the Indians, giving them blankets of smallpox, right? Put them on the reservation. On black people's slavery, right? On stealing 25% of America, continental America was Mexico, maybe a little more, right? So their dream, or their manifest destiny, was built off the agony of millions of people that they wiped out to get their land, to build their great cities on people's land that they didn't give them nothing for it. They just got rid of it. We don't want to be like that. A beautiful future is a future where you exert yourself, your mind and your body and your spirit to build a whole new functional system. We don't have a name for the system that we want to build here in America. We have a name for what we want to build in general, worldwide. That's Islam. That's Islam. But we don't want to force people in America, right, to become Muslim. We want to bring people to Islam in America by our behavior. People talk about, we're going to do dawah, they're going to pass out some flyers. So the best dawah you can do is have good behavior. Tell the truth. If you see, be like the people of, you know, Indonesia is what is the, yes, it's the biggest Muslim country in the world. Over 220 million Muslims. You know how Islam came to Indonesia? A few traders came there and they started trading. It's like, man, if you buy a kilo of beans from these people, when you get them home and weigh them, it's a whole kilo there. It ain't no 995, it's a whole kilo. Their business, their behavior, and their ethics is what brought everybody to Islam in Indonesia. So now the whole country, there's a few Christians there, but most of the people in Indonesia and Malaysia are Muslims. And they were brought to Islam by the great dawah of behavior. That's the way we want to do with our relatives and friends here. Remember, we're born and raised here. So we want our behavior. When they look at us, we want them to see a person that practices excellent behavior, that's patient, that's understanding. that don't run them in the corner talking about like Ahmed Dot and those people who moved the stone and Jonah and the whale and all of that. That talks a lot, but if you want to see the Islam develop from the people, you practice good Islam. You be a good brother, good cousin, good uncle, good parent, and you don't have to worry. Over the period of time, Islam gonna seep into everybody. When they have problems, they're gonna call you to help solve them. Why? Because you're patient, you're understanding, right? When they need something, they're gonna come to you because you ain't drinking, you ain't getting high. If you have a normal job, you're gonna have more money than them. Because on Friday night, you go into the Masjid to make prayer and stuff. On Friday night here, everybody hitting the street. And when they hit the street, they're not gonna have a whole lot of money when they get over whatever they've been doing. Tell the truth. I mean, if it's still like what I remember, you wasn't gonna have no money left. Hardly. Yeah, one preacher used to say, I want to watch the Eagles fly on Friday and be in the Money on Monday Club. Which it ain't too many people in that Money on Monday Club, right? Because the weekend would tear it, just destroy it. Forget about your wonderful children and your wife, right? When bill time comes, you've been out rolling sixes and sevens and what have you. God forbid you got any type of drug use that you have. The expensive drug routine is serious. So, we used to have a saying in Jahiliyyah, there's too many ways to be a fool to duck them all. In Jahiliyyah meant there's too many things coming at you to miss every one of them. Right? In other words, you may have your life and your wife and all that in control, but you know, snort a little cocaine or something every night. And you may have, that's if you was a hustler, you may have your whole stable, ladies might be in pocket, and you get big money, but you're a gambler. So the gambler, which is not a gambler, right? He ain't gambling. If he's got big money and he's gambling, he ain't no gambler, you gambling. Right? You gambling, he ain't gambling. You go to the gambling house and gamble, you can't break the house. Maybe one out of every 100, 200 times, because the house got everything. Whatever they're doing in the house, whether it's the cars or mirrors, I don't know what they got in there. But I know my father was a gambler, and he was never broke. All I do is watch him come home every night, take out his sack of money, and he just counted his money every night. Never empty sack. Why? Because he ran the gambling house. He did never come home and shake the sack up side down. Never. Because he took all pushes, and he took this, and he took that, and God knows what the dice did. 6-8 flats, switching up. I don't know. I know he didn't do that because he was an honest father, but he was a gambler also that never lost. I mean, you would have to be really lucky to beat their odds. In other words, one more mountain, one more river to cross means that we have a vision of a world we want to see. It's not the world that exists today. This world that we're living in today needs renovation, it needs remodeling, it needs cleansing, it needs all of those things that are disappearing from the earth. So one more mountain to climb. That's from our last national program in 2002. Some people would believe that people that own property would get so big in this type of place that they would share their property with you for the common good. Now, people have held those beliefs. Usually it don't last too good. Communism, each according to his work, each according to his need. That don't work too good either, because you got bad products. So if everybody gonna get the same thing, I'm gonna do, you know. So the system that you institute is very, now Islam, believe it or not, has some of all of these human systems, right? You pay zakat, sadaqah, infaq. That's to help the poor and the needy, right? Technically, that's a social program. That is a social program. That the rich, now in this society it's a little bit different because the rich you are, who's that, Buffett? Warren Buffett, he says, my secretary paid more taxes than he do, and he was in a book a few years ago. He said, my secretary pays more taxes. Now Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, all of them, they the richest people, one of maybe 3 or 4 in the world. He says, my secretary pays more money than I do in taxes. Okay, you go back 40 or 50 years, if you made so much money, you paid 91% in taxes. That's when America was spreading the wealth, right? That's when there was a big middle class. But the middle class has been shrinking and getting smaller and smaller. And they don't have money for this, they don't have money for that. Why? Because the people that have all the money learn how to game the system. And therefore, they have all the laws passed. All they do is get a few dummies and they have them change the laws. So now they don't pay hardly no taxes, or they got all kind of schemes. They can offshore this money, onshore other money, and pretty soon they don't pay no taxes. But me and you pay taxes, because they take our tax money before we even get it, right? They done already got the money, and if you get lucky, you get $5 or $10 back. But I'm saying is, without a revolution consistently, which would be unstable, the people do not get a chance to establish a permanent system that is technically for the people. Why? Because the rich learn how to game the system. And when they game the system, it's all over. Okay, we're going to speed up a little bit. So, in order to get somewhere, I'm going to just jump, because I think I've been taking a little longer time here lately, so I'm going to speed up. We need a quantum leap. Some call it quantum jump. That means that we got to move from where we are, not mathematically, but in quantum numbers. And if we do that, we have to do it first in our mind and in our heart. So we have to leap over all the things that's been holding us back. All our nafs, all the fitna in the world, we got to leap over that. And if we land somewhere, that's where somewhere over the rainbow comes from. You know, where skies are blue, that's just a little song, but guess what it means? That type of reality is almost like a fairy tale. Tell the truth. You would sit back and you would say, that ain't gonna happen. We'd have to be real lucky to pull off that type of system, that type of society, right? In order to produce a place with a condition where all human beings cooperate with each other, where they have an earth like Allah gave them that has mizan and balance and all that, that seems ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but it seems like you would have to have a big thinking, a big hope. You'd have to be almost inspired. You know, that was a hadith. or no, the history of conduct. Remember when all the Arabs surrounded Medina and they was going to wipe it out? And all the Arabs came, and so they said, we're going to build a ditch, around Al-Medina. And they started digging, and they came to one place where they had a big rock. And they called the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now remember, all of them were so hungry they had their belts tightened up on them here so their stomach wouldn't be growling. Then they pointed out the rock, so the Prophet ﷺ struck the rock. And then he struck it again. On the third time, he struck it, and the rock cracked and a spark flew out. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I saw in that spark the fall of Rome and Persia. Remember, Persians over on this end, that's Iran, and the Romans over on this end, Constantinople. By 1451, all of them, Iran had been, let's not say conquered, but it had been liberated. And finally, there's a period in history where the Uthmaniyya, the Ottoman Empire, conquered Constantinople. And when they so-called conquered, Fatih means the guy that did it. That means to conquer or opening. If you're from Pakistan or somewhere, they have Fatih Day. Not for Constantinople, but when Islam came to Pakistan, India, when it was opened up. So Fatih like Fatiha, the opening of Quran, So anyway, he said, I saw in that spark the fall of Rome and Persia. In other words, the two greatest empires. Now you have to remember, in the time we're living in, we had the Soviet Union, who everybody was fearing, but the Afghans, can you imagine? Only the Afghans brought down the Soviet Union. And Afghanistan only had 16 million people, and they lost 1.6 million people, 10% of their population. But the Soviet Union, that was powerful and big, hey, it was gone. Now it's Russia. And we say, boss man here, fly over there, t-shirt called Boss Man Bite the Dust. You know how Negroes talk. That means the Americans, this system that is slaughtering, killing Muslims all over the world, all day and everywhere, right? They are the main enemies of Islam. No matter what anybody say, the Muslims here in America trying to wave the flag, they are making a classical error. And they've been making that same mistake since the time of these articles were written. So, what does that somewhere over the rainbow mean? That we had to have a certain type of willpower, strong-mindedness, fortitude, self-control, self-command, self-mastery, self-government, tenacious, like the hadith say, you have to hold on to Islam with your hind teeth, tenacious. And it says there'll come a time when holding on to your Islam would be like holding a hot coal in your hand. That's now. To really be functioning, practicing Islam right now, with Islamophobia and all these other things, it's like holding a hot coal in your hand. Endurance, comes from the word duro in Spanish. Endurance, it means hard, going to last a long time, right? You may have a fighter that can't fight too good, but the champion is not in shape at that time. And that guy's conditioning will last and last. Muhammad Ali, Sphinx, remember? Sphinx couldn't fight at all, but he had endurance at that time, right? One of the brothers over in Baltimore, he won a championship about 10 years ago. You know why? They fought in South Africa. Y'all know anybody remember that fact? It was Rahman over in Baltimore. John Kason's son. They went to South Africa a month ahead of time. They was doing dawah, they was having plenty, but he was training there. I don't know whether it was really something or other. I don't remember these guys nowadays. But he went over there in 2 days to fight. He came from London, sea level, and went to Johannesburg, 6,000 feet up, right? And he lost. Why? Because the other brother been there a month training, doing his running, doing his exercise. So he couldn't fight as good as the other brother, but he had endurance. He was able to last. After a few rounds, the brother give out. You know, it happens to anybody. Iron Mike, y'all don't remember the old days. Man, Mike Tyson was so bad he could hit you with his thumb. That guy, he was tough in those days. Y'all may not remember that. But he fought Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas could not open that door unless you showed him how to get out. But Mike started believing the press. I'm Iron Mike. I'm tough. I can whoop anybody. And he slowed down on his training. Buster Douglas lumbered in the ring, yeah. And he hit Mike. Mike, he looked at Mike, what's happening with your knees, Mike? You're supposed to be so bad, right? So he said, I'll try it again. And Mike was running the street, getting high, doing whatever he wanted to do, and he went down. This is Boss Man. This thing over there bites, Boss Man bites the dust. All living things go through a certain cycle. They're born, they grow, they decline, and they die. Everything. The trees out there do it, all the stuff. The only thing that lives perpetually on Earth is the Earth. And another 4.5 billion years, it'll freeze up, or the sun will stop kicking out something. It's going to go. I mean, we won't be here. Everything, birth, growth, death, decline and death. Systems like that too. All over the world. Everybody in this room, they people that had a roof. You say, well, Africans too, of course. Shoot, the first civilizations was in Africa. Big civilizations. Light and learning coming out of Africa. Then the Greeks might get hold of it. Then the Romans might get hold to it. Then the British might get hold to it, right? Then the Americans, for the last, since World War II, the United States of America has been a beacon all around the world. Yes, it has, like it or not. But Boss Man is in trouble. His system is cracking. His system is declining. Historians call it mini wars. When has Boss Man won a war? He didn't win the Korean War. 1950s. They signed a ceasefire in 1953. Do you know that Korea, North Korea, and the United States is technically still at war? Because they never signed a peace treaty, only a ceasefire in Pyongyang in 1953. Vietnam, it might be a few Vietnam vets here. You can say what you want, maybe 3 million people was killed in Vietnam, but they run Boss Man out of there. You ever see pictures of the helicopters on top of the U.S. Embassy? People, snitches trying to hold on and get out of Vietnam? Yeah, Sam lost the war and ruined a whole generation of human beings. Because by the end, they knew they was over there for nothing. They was over there for nothing. All of those young men and women, some nurses, lost their life in Vietnam. Then they got a hole down there where you can't see it going by because they're ashamed of it. Down in the Vietnam Memorial down there. It ain't no big monument sticking all up. You got to know where it's at to even see it, right? They're ashamed of it. They lost that war and they know it. They killed a lot of people, but they lose it bad. They went to Iraq, 2003. Hey man, they killed over 1 million people over there. They still got whooped. Boss man, right now today, have you noticed that in the last month, the whole world has changed? That's what we're trying to tell you. The world has changed during the last month. Everything that America is doing right now, the new peace plan, or the deal of the century, whatever that man with yellow hair, red hair, whatever he is the craziest man they ever had in the White House. You know why he's so crazy? Because the people behind him saw that the U.S. was cracking up. So we got to put a guy in there that make it stand up and be America like it was in the old days. No reasonable man would go in and challenge China right off the way, right? With this thing and that thing, and challenge Canada and challenge Mexico and challenge everybody, right? And go and restart wars. They've been in Afghanistan. The Russians jumped out of there in a hurry in 10 years. Boss man been there 18 years. Can you see how cracked up he is? Look, when you fight people that's as poor as Afghanistan, you can't do nothing to them. In Afghan, look what history calls this, the graveyard of empires. Everybody from Alexander the Great, he run past there and looked over there. They said, what's happening? He said, don't bother. These are people who don't go over to India. India's rich and it's nice, and we can knock over this Maharaja, that guy. They all disunified, but they're one big place. We'll go over there and take India and Persia. And he did. He took them over. A lot of things we got from, we do over here. You do spring cleaning. Why you do spring cleaning? Because the Persians, Iranians have spring cleaning every year. Houses all huddled up, right? It's cold inside. Don't let anybody. So every year, spring, or they have a calendar. Their calendar is a solar calendar, but it's based on spring and summer and fall and all of that. And the reason you have spring cleaning and wear certain wedding rings is because Alexander the Great went to Iran and raided all the libraries and stole everything over there. And he brought it back over here. I mean, to Greece. And then you got it from them. Another thing, Alexander the Great was going across Arabia, coming back. He sent spies down there. He said, what are the people, what's down there? We'll go down there and knock that over. The spies came back. He said, those people don't do nothing but drink and fight. You won't get nothing down there. So he came across to Egypt, big empire, and established Alexandria in Egypt. That's how Alexandria got there. They said, boss man, leave those Arabs alone. You don't get nothing down there. You don't get no riches. You don't get no, all they do is fight. It's in Jahiliyyah for Arabs. All they did, remember, was fight and drink and argue. And they didn't do, and so all you do, boss man, is unify all those people. And they fight against us. Take your lovely United States. What have they done? They're unifying all the world against them. Because the people see the main enemy of humanity is the United States of America. We're going to move toward a close. We're here in America. It's going to take a lot for us to finish off Boss Man. Yes. But don't worry. Boss Man is going to finish off itself. I want to read a few ayats from Quran. They're on that t-shirt over there. Okay, let's see. Hence, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Hence, leave me alone with such as give the lie to these tidings. We shall bring them low, step by step, without their perceiving how it has come about. For behold, though I may give them rain for a while, my subtle scheme is exceedingly firm. This is Muhammad Assad's translation. It is saying, we shall bring them low, step by step. Look at boss man, step by step. He's losing on every arena. Without him perceiving how it come about, what it is. You remember what Allah say. You study Allah, that's the Quran. You study the Hadith, the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then the Quran directs you to study history. Travel in the earth and see what was the end of those before you. Travel in the earth that you gain knowledge. Isn't that what the Quran says? And then our experience. What I'm saying now, do not write yourself off and do not write off Muslims in America. The Muslims in America have been cruising along for a time, but we believe that they have a mission here in America. And don't you worry about how we're going to bring America to Islam. We have to concentrate on being good neighbors, good Muslims, practicing true Islam, right? Of course, not being a fraidy cat. If you're a little scared, you'll limit your mission. Now, but whether we let thee see in thy lifetime, O Prophet, the fulfillment of some of what we have promised them, or whether we cause thee to die before its fulfillment, thy duty is no more than to deliver the message, and the reckoning is ours. You know, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is Khatam and Nabiyin. He's Kafata and Nasi. He's a messenger to all people, and he's the seal of the prophets. Khatam and Nabiyin. That's one of his titles. So Allah is saying, whether we show thee in thy lifetime, O Prophet, the fulfillment of some of what we have promised them, or whether we cause thee to die before their fulfillment, thy duty is to no more than deliver the message. Now, since the Prophet ﷺ has passed on, the ulama and those people have the Quran in front of them. They can't be no prophet, they can't be no messenger, they can't be nothing like that. But they can deliver the message. That's what they're called to do, is to deliver the message of Islam, right? From Allah's book. They can't make up no new book, they can't come up with no new schedule. It's all right here. They have to deliver that. Because all of the history and the ups and downs of humanity, you can find it all right there in Quran. Have then they who deny the truth never yet see how we visit the earth without punishment, gradually depriving it of all the best thereof. But this is a process. Atrafah, it has different meanings, but it means the best of things. Don't you see that we're depriving the best of things to those people? Have they who deny the truth, never yet seen how we visit the earth without punishment, gradually depriving it of all that is best thereon? That means, okay, the last one. Has ever been bestowed on them, and I might take thought. Can then they who devise evil schemes ever feel sure that Allah will not cause the earth to swallow them, or that the suffering will not befall them, without their perceiving from whence it came. In other words, all people schemed and planned. The Romans didn't just want to go away, but Allah's plan fell into place. And when Rome was on the way up, you couldn't stop it, because you can't hasten nobody's ascent, nor postpone its decline. This is all in the Quran. Or that he will not take them to task suddenly in the midst of their comings and goings, without their being able to elude him. They can't get away with it. Remember, every system had a CIA of their own. Every system had an FBI of their own, right? Every system. That's why they killed, or they tried to kill something like Isa alayhi salam. They heard this guy gonna be born, he's gonna liberate everybody. So they kill all the children about that age, remember? That's how that, same thing with Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh. But Pharaoh said, hey, y'all heard anything? Yeah, man, somebody gonna be born or something soon, and he gonna lead the people to liberation. I said, well, how old is he? He's been born. He said, well, he might be old as 5 already, or he just being born. So let's knock everybody off, right? Isn't that what they did? Knock all of them off. Don't give nobody no chance. His FBI told him that. His Central Intelligence Agency all around the world would tell him what's going on over here. Y'all, what they up to over there. And then he'd move on them. All people had devised a scheme or plan to stay in power. But Allah gradually reduced the land in their control. Right? That's what it's. And then I'll just see what it says. Without their being able to elude him, or taking them to task through slow decay, or another translation says slow wastage. Slow wastage. It's all going downhill. All of you that came here to America for the good that America produced, you better hurry up and get as much as you can in a hurry, because boss man is biting the dust. Yes. And we don't have to do a whole lot of nothing at this time, but be good Muslims and focus on doing what's right at the time it comes to us. So we have to prepare ourselves for a multiplicity of possibilities. Because there's no sense in, we tried rebellion here in America. Remember the Negroes? They tried to whoop the white man. And in those days, we actually thought, you know, that one Negro could whoop 5 white boys, which was, in those days, was actually accurate. You know, you don't ever see a movie. You ever see one white man in those days jumping on one black? They didn't do that. But you could see 5 of them, or 10, lynch a nigga and hang him up, right? But you wouldn't see no one white man nigga unless you're scared, you know. But he might think he was. But if he got him around the corner, he whooped boss man every time. Why? Because we worked harder. We even practiced a little boxing. We had a few famous people, Joe Louis and all them people, Jack Johnson. So we could even fight a little. We thought the same thing with guns. But the thing about it, Negroes and guns, he never practiced. And he had bad luck with guns. In other words, physical revolution. When I was in Algeria, I was asking the party why they had such a, he said, man, he said, boss man, one of the guys, y'all would know his name if I told you, he shot a police and he said, man, the guy's traffic book, you know that big old thick book to write tickets? And they was using 38s at that time. So he said, I hit the guy's traffic book. And that saved his life, you know. So that's when they changed from 357, to 38s to 357 Magnums or 44 Magnums. It was a policy change. We can't use them little 38s no more. Y'all remember the police used to carry them 38 revolvers? They don't carry them no more. But the Negroes used them too. And then, most of the black men that was killed in those days, they would shoot the police. You know what the police would do? Hit the ground, roll over, and shoot the Negro. Almost every time. Why? Because the police was trained over and over again. When you get hit the ground, roll over, and shoot. They did it automatically. They wasn't thinking. Remember training. You educate people, but you train dogs and fighters. Isn't that right? Tell the truth. Why? Because you don't have, if you're in the ring, you don't have time to think. You see some, bam, you respond automatically, because if you go through that slow process of thinking, which take almost a second, bam, you hit. Isn't that right? So, we didn't have good luck because the Negroes was not trained to hit the ground, roll over, and shoot. We lost a lot of brothers like that in the black days. You don't know what our role is going to be here. So we have to get ready. It's going to be a big role. It's going to be a significant role. And I just visualize it has to be a heavy Islamic role. Out of that will be ill, knowledge, and behavior. Knowledge and behavior. We're going to have to be good people. I know that's a long road to hoe, but we have to try it out. We're going to have to try to be good human beings. I know it ain't easy. With everybody talking about you running down the street, with all the stuff we have to deal with in America, to be good human beings. I mean good human beings, not just everyday good, but revolutionary good. When you're right in the middle of the greatest struggle in history, what's happening right now is the greatest struggle in modern history. And we have to pull this off. And I'll close with this. Everything is being lined up. When we talk about a strategic alliance, you look over in the Middle East. You can see Iran, Iraq, Syria, right across the street in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon. It don't make no difference. I'm not talking about madhab. I'm talking about the sides being lined up. You look across the street, right? Saudi Arabia, the worst bums in the world. They use all their money against us. Saudi Arabia, right? I don't want to take too long, but this last little, whatever it is, the deal of the century, don't nobody go along with that except Saudi Arabia, a couple of those Gulf states, right? Those people use their wealth to destroy Islam and Muslims. Whether it's Boko Haram in Africa, Saudi Arabia, all the fitna, all of that foolishness that we learned in some of the Masjid around here, right? Yeah, I'm not going to call a name because some of y'all bit by that bug. We have to fly over that. We have to show the people around how good Islam is, right? Because the media is one of the greatest weapons against us. Like the greatest weapon against black people was what? The media. That's why 150, 60 years after slavery, you could shoot a black right now in the street and the police will never go to jail, never go to trial. Why? They done had 150, 160 years to solve that problem and it ain't no solving. Why? Because nobody cares about it. Why? Because the biggest threat in America is a young black youth walking down the street. Isn't it right? Now, America don't like it, but everybody in the world like it. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to close with this for real. Everybody in the world likes Negroes, consciously or subconsciously. When I'm in Pakistan, the kids just follow me. You know why? They think I'm a cricket player. They think I play cricket. That's when I was young. They know this old I ain't playing. They follow, hey, you know, and they just don't know because everybody under the British Empire like cricket, whether it's India, Pakistan, all right. So if I'm somewhere else, the kids still follow me. They think, when I was in South America, I told them I was a boxer. I wasn't a boxer, I was a dope dealer, selling cocaine up here, but I was, you know, in the middle of the street, I'd stop, see everybody looking, I'd throw a few punches, you know, like I'm a boxer. Because all my friends was boxers. You know, all them guys, George Foreman, George Cooper, Charlie Sheen, they was all my friends. So I would do road work with them. I didn't know how to fight, but I'd pick up a couple of things from them. They'd show what throw this, throw that, that's what you do. And so I know enough to make it look like they don't know what a boxer is. So, in other words, now, you go in any country in the world, for the last 30 years, it's been rap music and everything. Why everybody listen to rap, vanilla rap, or this kind, any kind of white folks rapping in Russia, in China, right? Anywhere you go, the only thing we got to do is clean up our music, you know what I mean? The stuff we listen to now, I'm not getting old-fashioned, but we got to clean that mess up. That is the most horrible sounding language using, I mean, back to the black dad, kill that nigga, shoot that bitch, blow them niggas up. I said, man, that is not revolutionary, to tell the truth. I got to stop and tell you how that happened, and I'm going to stop. Right after that, in the late 80s, y'all remember Nelson Griff and all them guys? All right. One of the main albums in '89 was Zionist Connection, because all the black rappers was reading some of the same literature we was reading. The most popular album, look at it, 1989, was Zionist Connection. That means black people was listening to our people with that rhythm, and you know, you don't forget no rhythm, tell the truth. How many songs you done forgot? None. You can be 100 years old. I'm 75 years old next month. And I can hear something from back in the 50s, Jim Danny to the rescue. You know, that's Jim Danny on the mountaintop. 30,000 from the feet to the top. I haven't heard Jim Danny since 1956, and I'm just reciting it right here. Why? Because if you remember that. Now, they was telling all the black people, the Zionist connection. It's the Zionists ruling the world. It's not against white folks or this folks, it's against Zionists. Remember in South Africa, they had the thing, what is Zionism is racism. It's not there anymore. So the real Zionists took over our music industry. They did it in many kind of ways. East Coast rap, West Coast rap, divide, conquer, rule. All of a sudden, our East Coast brothers is killing our who? West Coast brothers. And now there's a division in hip hop and rap, right? Divide, conquer, rule. The British use it all the time. So they're killing each other pretty soon. All that money that we was making, we didn't make it anymore. And what did they change? They changed the sound. From revolutionary rap to what? Shoot that nigga, blow that nigga up, right? Drag that nigga down the street. And that's all you hear. And now the language is so bad, they took over our music and ran us off. And now our children don't know nothing about nothing, because the Zionists took over one of the industries that we own. We have to fight all of that. So, O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. And we seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us of what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited, with thy grace make us free from want of what is desired. Ameen. We come to this.
Allahu Akbar.